Hello, this is the world famous Press H2O fountain solution pump for your offset printing press right here. This is the 115 volt one. We also make them in 230 volt. And over here, you can see the lower rebuild kit, which, as the name implies, is used for rebuilding the lower portion of the pump. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is loosen the impeller shaft to make it easier to separate from the pump motor. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to loosen the two set screws here and here. We're going to use this miracle of modern technology to do the job. All right, I'm going in. Wish me luck. One of the things they don't tell you when you're growing up is the number of times in your adult life you'll probably have to say to yourself, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This may be one of those times. Right, you've got your set screws loosened. Now you want to take off the acorn nuts. There are 4 of them. They sit atop hex nuts. So let's grab a hold of that guy. Ta-da! Do that 4 times. Okay, you have the acorn nuts removed. Now we will take off the hex nuts. Etc. until you have all 4 hex nuts removed. Okay, you've got your set screws loosened, you got the acorn nuts off, you got the hex nuts off. Now you're going to separate the motor top from the impeller housing, the bottom. This is upside down. It's probably right side up for our viewers in Australia. And it's just going to come right apart. See, super easy. Just come, there we go. Yeah, it's not going to be that easy for you. Yours is in a manufacturing environment. There's some gunk on there. Maybe something's a little bent because you had an operator that wasn't incredibly careful with it, but it should just come apart. You don't need to take the impeller out. You don't need to mess around with this stuff. That's later. Next step, we are going to take our slinger, put it on the impeller shaft, put the impeller shaft with the slinger on it into the body of the impeller housing, and then we will put the impeller on the shaft. It goes pretty much like you would expect. The impeller goes like this, doesn't go like that. You can see, maybe you can see, there are a couple of flat sides in the hole there which match up with the flat sides of the impeller shaft. So you put it on like this, match it up. Ta-da! To affix the impeller to the impeller shaft, use the correct tool. This is not the correct tool. This guy, right there, use it. Your next step involves these screws and the bottom impeller housing. These guys are going to go in these holes. Next up, we will put the 2 halves of the impeller housing together. I set my screws in place already. I did it by hand. Use this tool. Don't use a power tool, otherwise you might break the plastic. If you're wondering if we should put some sort of caulking in here, some glue, something to seal it up, no, don't do it. Just put it together. It'll be fine. Also, the nipple will go in there after we've already put the screws in. Next step, insert the nipple. You have 4 of these that come in the kit. And then you're going to mount this back on top of it. Now you'll see that there are 4 holes and 4 bolts. And you're probably worried, oh no, what if I put them on in the wrong position? You can't do it. These holes are not a perfect square. They're only going to match up one way. The way to figure it out is you look where this section is, this nice squarish section, and you match it up with the squarish section on the motor. Da-da. All right, with the plate mounted on the 4 bolts, you're going to use the hex nuts and attach the whole thing together. Those motor mounts are pretty squishy, and so you can push down on it to get things started. Awesome. Oh my God. There you go. So once you got them started, then ratchet them down. Try to do it so they all go down about the same rate, go back and forth, because not only are you attaching the motor to the housing here, these are what keep this going, the shaft going straight up and down. So if you tighten one down a bunch and you leave the one behind it barely tightened, the whole thing will lean towards the one you've tightened. So use those not just for attaching it, but for leveling. Come on. Okay, so your hex nuts are all screwed down tight. Before you put the acorn nuts on, let's make sure your shaft is where you want it to be, that it's not tilted to one side or the other. And this is spinning pretty freely. What we're going to do is it'll go up and down because these 2 guys are pretty loose. Remember those 2 guys? These set screws. Here's an example, those 2 set screws. So what you're going to do is position this so it's not rubbing on the top, the impeller is not rubbing on the bottom, right in between. And then you will tighten those guys up using this miracle of modern science. Okay, it spins. Now you're going to put the acorn nuts on. And you're done.